There are people that we love from afar, whether it's someone that we enjoy watching online, or possibly seeing someone popular in your school. When you see the person is showing off their aspiring personality or talent, you become enamored with how they are and want to befriend them in any way possible, even to go as far as to copy everything they like to do, and lose your sense of self.
And then they suck you dry and they take over your life. Oh my God, I know.
But a lot of people can't handle horror movies. Maybe you should skip this one.
It's not just that it scares me. I was friends with the director back in high school and things didn't end well.
So the prologue of this episode gives us a trailer for a scary movie that deals with leeches sucking away your personality until there's nothing left. This trailer really gives a glimpse of what this episode is going to be about. It gives the sense of somebody being very obsessed with a particular person and wanting to do everything to become them. Considering Bertie's personality, it comes to no surprise that she definitely isn't very fond of the movie due to her timid nature. However, there's more to it as explained in her therapy session. Apparently, she has a history with the director, Muriel, in which she has an obsessive nature towards this woman way back in their high school years. So it's understandable why Bertie can make the case about her concerns on what the inspiration was for the movie in question. Knowing that she has the tendency to be concerned about how others view her image. She was quick to see the similarities of how she was to these leeches. So, Dr. Joanne has asked her to look back on this past and learn how it affected her with kindness to herself.
Now that's out of the way. Could you sign this poster for me?
God, I love this woman.
Where did you get an x-ray machine?
Bertie, it was the wildest heist you could imagine. Hey, y'all, I'm taking it.
I don't care.
So after your cute little way of setting up how we get to look at Bertie's past via Tuca, I would have to say that I really dig the way we entered this world. Considering that we talked about a main character's past in our previous review, it really goes to show how we differ from seeing the backstory of characters when we watch certain shows. In Tuca and Bertie, they really show the visual with interesting color palettes to show the past of Bertie. Also, throughout the episode, we see a variety of background characters with no lines be seen as only fizzled images rather than actual character designs. What also makes this interesting is that we're really emphasizing that this is Bertie's point of view, as she is transformed into her younger self while Tuca kept to her original body. It's also interesting to note how Bertie felt about this teenage body and how awkward it was being in this space, which I think is relatable for a lot of people. When looking back at your past self, we often look back with a bit of disdain at how we acted and how awkward it is witnessing the decisions made around that time. Unfortunately, we're diving back to a very dark place for Bertie as her parents reminds her that she has to discuss with the school counselor.
Letting that happen to me at the Jelly Lakes, and now I'm being a huge baby about something that happened 2 summers ago.
Whoa, heavy. Yikes.
Now, as we dive into the school itself, I do want to get into how everyone has reacted to Bertie's trauma. Starting off with the parents. They were very keen on trying to throw the problem to someone they deemed to be more professional at the school instead of having an actual conversation to try and comfort her. The only problem with that is the fact that it's common for a lot of schools, especially those that are not in an upper middle class setting, to not have the adequate resources to help out a teenage girl with such a horrific experience. Counselors in this school are often not very well trained in this kind of situation and have the tendency to not really do much about the problem at hand and find other distractions to avoid it. Let's not forget about the friend group she had that were very appalled by the situation for all the wrong reasons. Instead of seeing it as a horrible situation, they legit chastised her for being involved in sexual intercourse at such a young age. It's frustrating because it really shows that there's very few avenues to go to when a majority of the ones most likely to help on paper are very little to non-existent. It becomes excruciatingly difficult for anyone at that age to manage themselves on an issue that's a lot more serious than what is deemed to be regular teenage drama. You can really understand why Bertie doesn't have a whole lot of confidence just from this segment alone. The people she usually relies on never really gave her the comfort she needed, and it crushed her mentally. At a very low point in her life, that's when she meets Muriel Nocturna for the first time.
Hey, are you okay? I heard you crying all the way in the art wing.
Hey, that character, let's go! So, considering what we know prior to seeing her for the first time, it's clear that we're going to go for a full goth aesthetic in her design. What makes it even more interesting is that there's still a sense of mystique considering the choice of using certain color palettes, so we don't know what her color scheme is. Though we can fill in the blank that she definitely wears a lot of dark colors clothing-wise, and since she is a leaf-nosed bat with a lighter tone, there's certainly a variety of bat species with that you can fill with her, which is nice for a bat lover like myself. In any case, Muriel is the first person to be willing to listen to Bertie about her issues. While that is going on, we see Tuca enjoy the school as she gets convinced to join the basketball team. It's a cute way to really see how interactive these memories are with the other characters not involved in this memory, and it really makes the episode a much more enjoyable watch rather than it being your average flashback dump.
I know how you feel. I got goosed by our handsy gardener a few years ago. Then my parents pretended like it never happened.
Oh my god, my parents did the same thing.
Hey, would you ever want to chill sometime?
Yeah, I hella would.
For the first time in this episode, we see that Muriel was very understanding about Bertie's situation. She even shared her experiences as well, which helps Bertie open up. It's crazy how on the nose these two have shared. From the traumatic experience, to the parents offering them up to the guidance counselor to solve their issues, the two quickly bonded because of that shared experience, and they were quick to become friends. That's really one thing you can say is that teens definitely bond very easily when they find someone similar to them. While it certainly isn't the most ideal experience in this case, sometimes finding them and expanding on them could be seen as very easy once they break that first layer of finding that strong bond. The transition from one memory to the next was very cool and stamps another major change from what we usually see from how we travel between scenes as well. Usually we get one of those dance-like transitions, but here, this is similar to what a lot of plays do, moving objects from the previous setting out while sliding in new scenery to form a brand new one. Seeing these two continue to bond at what will be their main hangout throughout this episode, the mall, which is very common for a lot of teens to go to back in the day. We also see the quirks of teens falling for guys for the smallest of characteristics and letting their imaginations run wild in enhancing their looks. Though, as we learn about these teenage niches, we start to really plant the seeds of what this relationship between Muriel and Bertie became.
What are you?
You look so cute in this. Here, put it on. Then walk out the door like everything's cool.
We're now seeing some of the quirks that Bertie recognizes from Muriel that she has aspired to adapt. I think any sort of law breaking can give someone a very strong sense of excitement and thrill. We all know that Bertie isn't known to do things like petty thievery, but this relationship with Muriel is making her experience new things that give her a new sense of life. Retrieving that collar and getting a compliment from Muriel gave Bertie that strong sense of belonging she has been lacking severely since the incident. That collar represents a spark of a new era for Bertie, the spark of a new friendship as well as possibly a new style. When transitioning back to the classroom, We see Muriel continue that bond with sitting next to her and sending her silly notes and giving her a cassette filled with music she was interested in. It reminds me of how I got interested in alternative music like punk rock when I was young. Having it be introduced by others and being enamored with the track causes you to fully dive into the culture. Which was certainly the case as Muriel and Bertie's friendship skyrocketed. The montage as the two went around enjoying each other's company was such a wholesome moment because it gave Bertie an outlet to really be free and confident for the first time. Even seeing Muriel continuing to sneak more goth-related clothes and transforming her into something completely new. I can't stress enough how easily someone young can be influenced by another group, especially if they were at a place Bertie was. A change of pace can give them an opportunity to really feel somewhat normal again, even if that normal isn't necessarily the same prior to meeting someone new. For better or worse, this gave Bertie the sense of belonging she desperately needed, and the feelings for Muriel became stronger than ever.
Hey girls! Wow! Bertie, where did you get all those clothes?
Mom, please knock before you enter my personal space.
With the amount of changes and expressions Bertie has made while spending her time with Muriel, it was bound to come with some negative attention. The main one that isn't keen on the amount of influence Muriel has over Bertie is none other than Bertie's mother, Anna. Now, it's clear that Bertie's mother is much more conservative throughout the time we've known her, and is not big on sudden changes that happen around her. So with the already shaky relationship forming between the two, it's safe to say that the recent influence has done nothing but accelerate that. With Anna trying to give the girls snacks, Bertie was quick to express her annoyance with Anna and expresses her friend's diet situation, even going to the extent of saying that she is a vegetarian as well. This raises a lot of red flags in this situation. With how she has turned into a spitting image of Muriel and how quickly she was chastising her mother for barging in, offering a snack that Muriel does not eat, and even stating that she has conformed into being a vegetarian as well. We know that this transformation was gradual when it came to the overall looks. However, with her sudden burst towards Anna and making a sudden diet change, it made it clear that this is a sign of obsessiveness. Usually in these cases, the person who seems too enamored usually has a troubled past, much like Bertie. When they witness someone with an extraordinary personality and vibe, much like Muriel, it helps completely change their mentality. So with someone so young and so fragile, it should be no surprise that Bertie starts to become a bit clingy to her only friend, to the point where it seems that she views her as her only path to happiness. That kind of sentiment can be very dangerous if it isn't caught early enough, because it could be seen as the beginning of the end of someone's sanity. We even see the rift continue once Anna and Bertie talked about Muriel and the sudden resemblance Bertie succumbed to. While the concerns are there, the way Anna tackled it was very condescending and became very unhinged with her thoughts of the situation. Outright calling her daughter a Satanist is definitely not going to gain you votes on the Mom Award, which in turn drives Bertie further along the obsessive pipeline.
So once you do finally hook up with him, what are you guys gonna do? Are you gonna tongue kiss, touch butts?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of scared of that stuff.
Are you scared right now?
No.
Huh. Second straight review that has a kiss scene in the flashback. However, this one had a much lasting impact that turned the little innocent Bertie to an obsessive stalker. This also was a complete turning point for Muriel as well right after that kiss. The situation became very awkward with Bertie, spouting out her clearly lustful desires, and Muriel quickly rejecting her offer and announcing that she was going to hang out at the mall, their special place, with a different girl. This absolutely crushed Bertie for a myriad of reasons. I mean, that's how fickle the situations can be. One moment your supposed best friend decides to kiss you, then the next moment she is leaving you dry for someone else. It was something that really made me question Muriel and what caused her to make a move on Bertie. Now, you can easily push this aside as a female teen trying to be edgy and kissing a girl. However, I do feel there's more to it than that. There could be a possibility that she is trying to push her to be more daring in her pursuit for Apple, her crush at the time. Or it could be a desperate ploy to get Bertie to cut ties with her, making her feel uncomfortable. Whatever the case may be, it was clear that there was a sudden tone change after the kiss and was completely out of the blue and very questionable to say the least. A thing that is very common when it comes to relationships in high school. The value of a friendship can change drastically on any given day during a semester. That's probably why there's a large chance that a lot of the friends that you know from high school you will never speak to again once you've graduated. A school setting is a small bubble that basically feels like a lifetime during that period. Once you're out and experience what the world has to offer, it's easy to grow distant from those you grew up with. So these friends that you may have in high school now can easily change up in a blink of an eye. And Bertie is going to experience the same thing.
It was so sick. He said, yes. And I was like, pervert much?
So now we get to witness Bertie being what was previewed in the beginning of the episode, a parasitical leech. The art design of seeing this creepy, shadowy version of Bertie looming over Muriel and her friend Jessica, not to mention the movements represent some weird bug-like creature, emphasizes the state that many would consider to be very uncomfortable for those witnessing the act from afar. Her ways of approaching Muriel and how she blew up Muriel's phone with voicemails is not doing her any favors. You can tell Muriel was really starting to lose patience with Bertie after the way she has been presenting herself to her and gifting her somewhat creepy gifts. Even with all of that, Muriel does not open up about her feelings towards Bertie and her recent behavior. That's probably the biggest gripe I have with Muriel at this point. It's very clear that Bertie is stepping over boundaries, but not wanting to nip this bud before it grows into something worse is essentially asking for trouble. It became very clear that Bertie was desperate to do everything she can to get into good graces by copying every little move that Muriel did. Even going as far as getting the same food and even taking the smallest playful gesture during class into a creepy love letter. Giving subtle hints to someone who is in this state will not work, and being honest is the only way you'll have a chance to truly get into them that you're not interested in that way. With every subtle rejection, Bertie eventually starts to lose that grip of hope of trying to regain that level of friendship she had.
Smile for the yearbook.
You won Gothiest?
I did? I didn't mean to. I didn't know.
How could you do this?
Yeah, this is a really dumb thing to be the final straw on, but it's a high school setting. Things like being crowned a certain niche in a yearbook is considered to be a very big deal. A lot of people want to be known as the most recognizable in a stereotypical role in that class. Winning that slot represents your identity. It's what you're known for, and being a part of that yearbook as a label meant that your time during that year was memorable. For Muriel, that was being the goth of the class, and knowing that Bertie took that role from her made her furious. That's because being goth is her identity, and Bertie stole it. This meant that the gloves were off, and Muriel ripped into Bertie by letting out all of her frustrations towards her, calling out the Stalker's tactics, reminding her what her interests were prior to meeting Muriel, and even admitting that the reason why she even wanted to spend time with her was because she had a rut with Jessica for a while and needed a filler until they made up. You see what I mean when it comes to fickle relationships? People around that time think very little of the consequences and how it affects them and others involved. The selfishness is at an all-time high, and everyone that we have seen Bertie interact with shows that, which in turn ripped away what little happiness she got from Muriel. It's tough to really pinpoint your frustration between the two falling out. While yes, Muriel was a bitch, and as Tuca pointed out, Bertie went to a school for bitches, you can understand her frustrations with Bertie's behavior at the end of the relationship. Even with that, Muriel shouldn't have egged her on in the first place by earning the trust of someone that is in a poor mental state if she didn't see her as more than a fling. In the end, this relationship was a very unhealthy one for both parties.
I just wanted to say, I'm sorry I was such a leech when we were in high school.
And I'm sorry I won Gothiest, which obviously caused such a lasting damage that you had no choice but to work out your feelings in this movie.
The movie isn't about you at all. So...
Looks like Tuca was right again. Not everything is about you, Bertie. This once again really proves the point of how little high school experiences really matter at the end of the day. Muriel also had a lot going on after high school since she became successful as a scary movie director and now has a child, which ironically was what the movie was actually about. Try explaining that to him when he gets older. So even with that awkward interaction between the two, Tuca does bring out a good point that her time in high school was dealt with a lot of emotional problems. But those ended up being building blocks for her and helped her grow to who she is today, which is a great lesson to end on. Relationships like these are very difficult to go through. While seeing someone so confident even after the trauma they dealt with in their past, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily a person that you can look up to and possibly befriend, especially when it is in a very fragile setting in high school. Teenagers can be extremely ruthless to one another, and some are even willing to use them for their own personal interest and dump them quickly if they don't find them useful anymore. Even with that harsh reality, high school is not the end-all be-all. The world is a whole lot bigger than high school, and you will learn a lot more from the people that will enter and exit your life. And you'd be surprised who will be the ones to stick around as you grow older to be your lifelong friends. Until then, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.